Welcome to Money Talk with Tiff, a podcast where we discuss everything money from tips and tricks to current events. Follow me on my journey to become debt-free and meet other cool people along the way. I am your host, Tiffany Grant. Now let's talk money. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast. So today I have Joshlyn on the line, and she's a homebuying consultant and podcaster with a personal mission to help 50 people purchase their home within the next 365 days. That is a big feat. But she has her platform because she knows how overwhelming the process can be, and so she wants to help people through it. She also has paid off $70,000 of debt in about 1.5 years. So we'll be talking about all things real estate investing, as well as how that debt payoff happened. So thank you so much, Joshlyn, for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Absolutely. What made you decide to get into real estate investing?
Well, what really inspired me was just sort of attempting to do it the first go around myself. So like every person, or not every, but like most Americans, like we all sort of follow the same path, like, go to school, get a degree, get married, buy a house. Like, I was like, okay, well, like, I'm going to do my best with that. And, I was like, at a good place in my life, like late 20s, I had a good job, like the income was coming in. And of course, like I still had the student loan debt, which you just mentioned, but I just felt like overall my financial landscape was ready for a home. And it's not as easy as most people say. Like I was one of them. I was like, oh, okay, like, well, I'm turning whatever age and, now it's time for me to transition from renting to owning. And it's so much more that happens in between that. So like, I didn't learn that just by like watching someone else do it. Like I did it myself. So as I was like going through the process with my agent and my lender, like I came across like so many issues with just trying to compete like in the market that I was living in, which was Maryland at the time. And it's right outside of DC. And it's just getting more expensive and expensive by the date. So like my debt, and I want to say honestly, like my debt to income ratio, but the main debt that I was carrying was my student loans, was really holding me back from having like a higher pre-approval amount, as well as a higher debt to income ratio, which is typically like good to stay below 36%, but mine was way above that. And I thought that my income would allow me to kind of not have those issues, but they still did, because if I was able to get rid of the debt that I had, which again was mainly student loans, I'd be able to qualify for a lot more in my pre-approval and qualify for more homes in the area that I wanted to live in. So basically, like after just putting in offers and just losing money along the way, like my earnest money deposits, for example, I was like, okay, like this is something I need to sit and think about, because I can just keep putting in these offers and not, getting any like positive responses, or like I can actually take the time to get my finances together, even though personally, like I said, I thought they would be together. Like I already had made this plan. I had my savings, like I had all my W-2s, like everything was good except for that debt. And I was like, okay, like I don't want to settle it for whatever's just out there based on what I'm pre-approved for. Like I know what I want. And I also don't want to be, house poor, as people say. Like I want to be able to comfortably afford all the additional expenses that I'll have to cover as a homeowner. So that's what really like encouraged me to like pay off my debt. And it's not required. Like people always ask me, do you have to pay off all your debt? No, you don't. But, it's a good idea for you to get to a good amount that you can manage, because like I just said, you're going to have even more expenses than you do now, like as a renter. So for me, I just didn't want that to be I didn't want that to be my issue again, the next go around. So I just took that time, I gave myself 2 years to pay my student loan debt off. And I paid it off in a year and a half. But in that time, I actually learned so much about real estate investing, which sort of piqued my interest into some of the things that I could do now before I even purchased the home. And then I just really learned more about how to build wealth. And there's other ways to do it besides real estate. But, based on my knowledge and just the time that I took to really educate myself, most millionaires have real estate in their portfolio, amongst other things. So for me, I don't want to work forever. I want my assets to fund my lifestyle. So I just kind of use that experience to learn and to make myself more competitive for the next go around. And thankfully it worked in my favor. And like I said, I paid everything off, and now I'm in a really good place. And so I just realized that the things that I learned and the things that I was able to discuss with family and friends are things that people were talking about on a day-to-day perspective. Like, people feel like you just have to rent forever, and you don't. Like,
right.
Sometimes it works out in your favor to be a homeowner over a renter. It depends on obviously what your goals are and where you are in your life, of course. But for me, it's just like, I want something that will grow and appreciate over time. And that's what real estate for the most part does, unless you end up like in a bad deal. Like I said, like, I understand that I've lost money already, but if you manage it right and you have the right knowledge, typically it'll work out in your favor. And it's, again, something you can pass down from generation to generation.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So you hit on so many different points there. So I want to go back a little bit. So you were saying that when you went through your home buying process, you didn't know how much of a process it was going to be. And so I can echo that. When I bought my house, 3 years ago now, when I was 26, I did not know how much of a process the whole thing was. I mean, it gets very in-depth. And the thing about it is, a lot of times in our community, we don't have somebody to tell us how that whole process goes. And so it's up to us to figure it out. And yeah, we have to stumble along the way, but our hope and what you have done is that you can teach somebody else what you went through. So that way they don't have to go through the same mistakes. So we may hit on that a little bit more later, but I want to go to your next point. When you said you had debt, but you thought that you made enough to where it didn't matter. I just wanted to highlight that, because a lot of people think that they can out-earn their bad spending habits or out-earn their debt, and you really can't. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you make, it's really how you manage it. So I used to work at a financial firm, and there were people there that made, let's say $100,000 a year, because this was all millionaires or whatever. But on the low end, like $100,000 a year, and there were people that made $500,000 a year, right? The only difference between those two demographics is how they manage their money. For instance, there was a couple that made $500,000 a year. They're withdrawing from their investments $10,000-$20,000 a month. When you're going through money like that, it's not gonna last. There were couples only making $100,000 a year, and with them, they were very frugal, very on point with their money. They knew what was coming in, what was going out. They had more in their investments than the person making $500,000 a year. So I wanted to just drive that point home, because people are like, oh, if I only made more, if I only made more, and you'll never be satisfied, because if you always have that mindset, that's how it's going to be. I will tell you, if you do something as simple as budgeting, you will give yourself a raise. I can guarantee it.
So true.
I can
so
guarantee
true.
it. Right. And then the last point that you hit on that I wanted to go over, because you said a mouthful, so I just wanted to reiterate these points, was to diversify your portfolio. So yes, it is fine and dandy to be in stocks, bonds, things like that. That's awesome. Or, if you like to invest in businesses, whatever it is that you have, right? Diversify at the end of the day. So what I want to talk about there is REITs. So REITs are real estate investment trusts, right? And I've talked about this on my blog and, my Wednesday words of the week, but let's dig a little deeper into those. If you want to go ahead and get us started, and then I'll butt in.
Yeah. So in the midst of me, aggressively paying off my debt and, changing my whole lifestyle, like I mentioned before, like I got really interested in like how I can make money now in any way that I can kind of get started with real estate investing without like fully owning a property is something that I really took an interest in. Cause like I said, property, if managed right, appreciates over time. And obviously it's also income producing. So that's what really, sparked my interest in REITs when I found out that, REITs, real estate investment trust, for those that don't know. But when I found out that they are required to pay 90% of their revenue to their investors, I said, well, where do I sign up? Because I need that money right now. And obviously I was still working and I had other things going on. Like I did consulting on the side as well. But I was like, this is passive income, which means that I don't have to trade my time for money to do it. So, obviously like no one else around me they didn't really invest in REITs. So like, of course, like I asked, but I had to like pay for the knowledge, and then eventually I came across like public REITs, like the Vanguards and, Digital Realty Trust. But really where I've gained the most like dividends and like returns on my investments has been through Fundrise. And I feel like Fundrise is, I guess to explain it, it's an online investing platform that kind of takes the guesswork out of like reading all these, income sheets and doing this research on like, which platform to start with. Like it's really an all like one-stop shop place where like everything you need to know about a company you can find there. And then you actually kind of recognize some of these properties that you're investing in. So that's where I started. I now have both. Like I'm investing, via the Weebles and Robinhoods, but Fundrise, I feel like is what I recommend to people that now ask me, like, how do I get started? Like, if you want something that makes sense and for you to kind of learn the base knowledge, understanding of what's happening, like I always recommend something that provides all of that for you. And then over time, like you'll get comfortable like I did to invest again, like I said, with some of these other online brokerage. I always struggle saying that. Brokerages. So yeah, like I always, like everybody, like even my aunt, like, it operates the same way. Like it's equity and it's also like income. So for her, she's older than me and she's like, okay, well, like I don't really need the equity. Like I've done my full out real estate investing. Like I want something that's passive. So for her, like she's focused on like equity based REITs versus, the income based REITs versus the equity, as I'm focused on the equity right now versus the income based ones, because I'm not looking to retire. I mean, unless God says otherwise, like I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. So basically my portfolio is very balanced. And like I said, the biggest draw that I want to emphasize is that 90% of what they generate in revenue goes to you. Obviously not all of that 90%. It depends on what you're investing in, like how the REIT's performing. But since I've started investing, which has been a little over a year and a half ago, like I've generated dividends quarterly, which is how I receive my money, and it goes straight to my bank account. And then people are like, well, how's the tax situation? It's like, unless you sell your stock, like you don't have to worry about that. And that's just been my experience. I'm not an investment advisor. I want to put that out there. I only speak on what I know and what I've experienced. And, that's why I recommend those two routes, and if you really just don't have the baseline understanding, like I didn't, I was like, I just need something that I will invest my money based on my goals. And that's what Fundrise did. And then of course, like I said, over time, I became confident and knowledgeable. And then I started investing in some of the other public REITs.
Right. So here's the thing though, and I want to make sure I put this disclaimer out there because I have ran into issues where people wanted to get out of REITs and they couldn't. Because with REITs, if they're private, like on the private market, right? You have to have a buyer for your shares before you can get out. And sometimes that can be kind of difficult. So I just wanted to put that word of caution out there for the listeners.
Yes.
It doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. And so I just want to put that out there. Now, you can invest in REITs on the regular market. Like you were saying, you can invest in them as part of like mutual fund type strategy, they have REITs available for that. And that's usually what I do. So I am usually on the market, but there's another way that you can invest in real estate, and that's locally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to go into that just a little bit, so, yes, you can go buy a home and you can rent it out, or you can buy and flip and things like that, but you can also pool money with other people.
Yes. Yes. And
So,
that's the route that I'm also interested in.
right.
So, yeah. I'm
So,
happy to speak to, all right, you want me to speak to my experience with that?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So, I am all for ways to, flip my money legally. And like you just mentioned, like there's ways for you to do, real estate investing on the market, be it public and like Fundrise, like I mentioned. But I've also really have been seeing a lot more people invest, like you just said, locally with, a developer, or someone who is looking to buy some land and build on it. And that's something that I'm actually doing. So I'm based in Houston, and there is a local developer here by the name of Chris Senegal, and he has been building, blocks, as we say, like for over like 10 years across Texas and Louisiana, which is where he's originally from. And so he has a whole initiative on basically revitalizing Fifth Ward, which is a historically Black neighborhood. And being that he sort of has ties and understands the whole experience, he knows that money is required to actually like redevelop some of these areas that, are being sold for dirt cheap because people can no longer afford these properties and gentrification is hitting. So his goal is basically to combat gentrification with allowing, local investors to, gain some dividends based off him revitalizing this area and rebuilding and getting tenants in there that are, natives and people that aren't coming here with all this cash because they can afford to buy it. So the goal is for him to keep the people that are living there, or people that are natives that want to buy. And I completely relate to that, being that I'm from California and California is stupid high right now. And it wasn't always like that. So he has a whole initiative, which is like community crowdfunding, community investing. And you can invest at levels that you can afford. So like the lowest I think was around like $100. And, if you're working and you manage your money right, like you spend that on other stuff that's not even generating return on your investment. But then he also has levels within the thousands. And based on that, you get shares and, as people move in and they pay their income, you get a percentage of that. So that's one initiative that I know of. And I know of similar initiatives in Maryland, which is where I used to live. And I also know of someone doing something similar in Los Angeles. So you just kind of have to know what's going on and pay attention and be willing to talk to people, because I wouldn't have known about that if I didn't talk to another friend who's very much interested in real estate and she shared it with me. So of course, do your knowledge. Like I just didn't say, oh, she's doing it, let me do it too. Like all of this information for the most part is public. And if you have a, intuition that's saying something about this isn't right, don't do it. But, with investments, everything is a risk. Like nothing is a guarantee. So there is an opportunity for me, to not receive the return that I, put in. But like I said, you have to kind of pay to play when it comes to investing, but,
Absolutely.
invest knowledgeably. So, talk to people, do your research, and don't just go into it blindly because someone else told you to do it.
Exactly. Preach. preach. And so like that's something that I have always wanted to do, even before I started, the whole Money Talk with Tiff thing and this, that, and the other. I wanted to figure out a way to pull people together and practice group economics, community economics, and buy properties in our communities and then reap the benefits of it. And so, and also it's important to note there are tax breaks available for stuff like that.
Yes, there are. I'm so glad you said that.
Yes, yes, because it's important, and I need people to
Yes.
understand, like I've talked about it before, but if you invest in places called quote unquote opportunity zones, there's tax breaks for that. So not only are you buying buildings and stuff in your community in order to keep it in your community, but there's also tax breaks available. And that's why there's a lot of gentrification, because people outside of the community have figured this out already. And so they're coming in and they're like, ooh, we get to develop this and do this and do this, and we get tax breaks. Yeah, sign us up. And so our community needs to gain more knowledge. And that's why we're having this conversation right now, is to put the knowledge out there. Like, look, this is how it's being done, and this is how we can do it too.
Yes, absolutely. That is so true. And I mean, I just know so many people who just try to aim to do it on their own. And it's just like, you underestimate the power of like coming together and pooling money together. Like, this is literally how our ancestors purchased property. Like, this isn't something new, you know, and people are seeing the value in our neighborhoods before we do. And like you said, like, they're coming in with the knowledge to, you know, make money off the money they're putting in. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. And yeah, like, I mean, like I said, a good investment will set you up for success, but you know, you have to be willing to align with the right people, and do your research, you know? So I love that you said that there are so many tax breaks, and, you know, you don't know what these future, you know, properties are going to, you know, value for in the future. Like, you don't see much now when you see it, but like, think about what's coming to that area. Is it going to be new transportation? Is it going to be some new stadium? Like, all that's going to benefit you in the future. So important.
Exactly. And, you know, I'm glad you brought up again the whole partnership thing and getting with other people, because I was watching a webinar just Friday. There's a website called Bigger Pockets. It's for real estate investing. You know, they have a lot of knowledge there. They have webinars almost every day. I can't keep up, but but I was watching one Friday, and the guy was saying how, you know, right now he's like a multi-million-dollar investor in real estate and things like that. He has thousands of properties, but he said he got his first property flip because, like, he didn't pay anything down, right? He got with somebody else that had the money, he had the know-how, and he had the connections. And so his first property was a piece of land with 3 houses on it. At the end of it, he was like, he didn't really make much, but it gave him the ability to get his next one and his next one and his next one. And so his point was, look, partner with other people, even at the smaller level. So let's say, for instance, you and your closest family and friends, you know, right now, the whole susu flower thing is really big. It's just blowing up. Like, I'm tired of people asking me about it. I just made about it on my personal Facebook. But but you can take that concept and practically buy back the block. Like, if everybody puts in $500, let's say, and you create a LLC or a partnership or a corporation, or however you want to form it, you can make your own susu flower, whatever you want to call it. And not only is everybody going to benefit if the deal is good, but also you are helping your community. And so that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. And that was kind of like in my Facebook post, was that, yes, this is a great concept. Community economics works. It's been done for I don't know about thousands, but at least hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we should be doing it, but let's do it smart. Let's do it in a way that will pay us dividends way down the line, outside of this every month, you know, maybe get, what is the payout, like $3,500 if you pay $500, I don't know. But let's right.
Because I've seen it too.
But let's think about how we can use these dollars that we're so willing to buy into these, SUSU opportunities or MLMs or, whatever it is out there that's new and great and different. Let's see how we can use that money and re-inject it into our local community.
Yes.
And so what we're talking about today is a way that you can do that. And I can guarantee you that there is somebody else that's thinking this exact same thing. It may be another Money Talk with Tiff listener or another Joshlyn follower or whomever, but people are thinking about this, and it's your job to find these same like-minded individuals and go in on some property, y'all. Like, I'm telling you, when I was working at that firm, a lot of those people got their wealth because they had property that was handed down from generation to generation. Like, this is what you need to be doing. One of the things, but this is what you need to be doing. It's so important. So, Joshlyn, really quick, let's hit on this debt payoff. Because I know my audience is probably like, dang, 70,000 in like 1.5 years. How did you do it?
I gave up my lifestyle.
Long story
I don't
short.
really have, that's it. So, I was living on my own, like away from home. I want to say I was living my best life. And I lived modestly. Like, I wasn't in a high rise and I didn't have all these, Gucci bags and stuff. Like, for me, that's not worth it for me, but I did travel a lot. Like, I went to brunch. Like, I was seeking experiences. That's where my money went. And I feel like those are valuable. But I also know when I would, do my budgets and my spending plans, I'm like, wow, you spent a lot on brunch this month. Like, that could have went somewhere else. So, like I said, going through that whole home buying process and failing, I'd say, even though that's not a negative thing, I was able to fail forward. And I really understood that if I utilized the money that I was making in a better way, like I could have gotten rid of this debt, but that required me giving up my lifestyle. So I got rid of that apartment. Like, I moved back home with my mom, and, obviously that's not a full rent payment. She still paid, I still had to pay her rent. I still don't understand to this day. It's like, I'm your child. Like, why do I have to pay you? This doesn't make sense. You're
building character.
That's what she said. She's like, you don't value the things that you don't pay for. I was like, whatever. So it was only a fraction of what I was paying on my own, of course. And then just really getting creative with income that came in. So I had my full-time job, but I also did consulting on the side. And I also started finding other ways to invest passively. So that's really where I was doing a little bit of investing, on these little online platforms, but I got really serious about it and hired a financial planner to help me not only plan for the current, but plan for the future in my retirement. So like, he was able to kind of introduce me to things that I should be looking in. And it made sense because this is something that he's like licensed to do. So of course I still did my own research, but I did get, I got more confident with like investing, and that's where my REITs journey started. And that's where, really getting set with ETFs started for me. And I just built from there. So like, I had multiple streams happening at once. And so really, if I decided not to pay them off, that was my fault. And, like I said, I gave myself 2 years to do it, because I had gave up my lifestyle and I missed it so much. I was eager to get back to it. But I also learned so much along the way about like how average millionaires move and like how people really build wealth that will last from generations to generations. And so I also I don't have children, but I have a godson. And so like, I also set up it wasn't a retirement plan, but it wasn't the 529s that people know about. So it's a standard and that I started on his behalf. And it's funny, we just talked about community investing. Like, all of our immediate family are investing into that fund. It's not just me, even though I brought the idea to the family. It's like, hey, like, your parents, y'all need to be investing in this too. Like, he's my godson, but this is your son's future. And so they got it, obviously. And we invest like $20. Like, it's not even a huge amount because he's only 4. And I know that it's going to compound, over time. So it wasn't about just me like setting myself up, but like, now these are conversations that we have on the regular. And that's really what I'm thankful for, that opportunity for like I was able to pay off my debt, which is great, but it's also like I changed my mindset around money. And as a result of me doing the work, like people closest to me are also seeing how I've made changes, and now they're thinking about how they can replicate that. So
exactly.
yeah.
So what you're probably referring to is a UTMA account. So it's like an investment account for people that are under the age of majority in your state. So whether that's 18, 21, whatever, and you can invest on their behalf. So just a little educational opportunity for the listeners. And then I wanted to point out, you said you got a financial planner. Yes, yes, yes. So that's what I do as like my day job. That's what Money Talk with Tiff is. I'm a financial coach and a financial planner. And so for me, I'm like, guys, it doesn't matter how much you make right now or what you're doing with your money or whatever. There's always a way to improve. And so as financial planners, we spend a lot of our time researching how to improve wherever you are. And so highly, highly, highly recommend, if you don't know one, you know one now. No, I'm just kidding.
But, so true. But I'm so thankful I did it. And I'm so thankful you touched on feeling like you're not ready for one, because that's what held me back. Like I've known of them for years, but it's just like, well, I don't have much for you to manage. But he was like, that's the point, because you probably do, and you don't think about how your money is being spent right now and how these current spending habits will impact you in the future. So I also, like you all just said, like hire Tiffany clearly, because this stuff helps and you learn your mindset changes. Like, yes, like you improve your money, but like the biggest thing that I get from him, because I still like work with him, like we still have our check-ins, like it's my mindset and like what's possible, like thankfully, like I come from a middle class. It's not that I grew up struggling, but like the things that he and I discussed, like I would have probably never discussed, or like it would have been years, so it's just important to hire people who are smarter than you.
Cut it down.
That's basically it. They're trained to do this. So why would you continue to struggle year after year when they can literally help you get it together within months? And that's what he did for me.
Exactly. And I did not pay her to say that. No, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously though, y'all, even if it's not me, please find somebody that's a financial planner or a financial coach that can help you through these things. This is what we do. So thank you so much, Joshlyn. This was awesome. So if people were interested in your podcast or just learning more about you, where can they find you?
Yes. So I am available online. So my podcast is called Real Estate Prep, which is geared towards first-time home buyers that want to confidently purchase their first home. So of course, you all heard a little bit about my story now, but I also have experts, because again, I really believe in working with people that are smarter than you, so I have inspectors, appraisers, I have agents come in to tell their, I don't want to say secrets, but like really just give you the game from an objective perspective, so that you're confident when you're going on that inspection. You're confident on what the earnest money deposit is, because that was a shock for me. It's like, why do I have to give you money before I even get the house? And so I had to kind of learn that, so that is my podcast. It comes out every Wednesday. I call it Wealth Wednesdays. And adjacent to that is my website. I have a lot of free resources for aspiring home buyers, again, based on my own journey, which is realestatepreppod.com. And then my Instagram is also Real Estate Prep Pod. So I'm Real Estate Prep Pod everywhere.
Yes. All you need to remember is Real Estate Prep Pod. Go follow Joshlyn everywhere. She's awesome. And I hope you enjoyed this knowledge, because she dropped so many gems. So thank you again. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you as well. And make sure you guys hire Tiffany.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Money Talk with Tiff podcast. For free resources and materials, head over to moneytalkwitht.com. And while you're there, why not sign up for our newsletter so you'll never miss an episode? Talk to you soon.